It is amazing what they've done now, though. 7 wins in a row after that, whatever the hell that was to start the season when they lost 38-3 to the Saints. Do you view the Packers, especially now that they've beaten the Cardinals? Sims and I talked about this yesterday. Because you've got the Rams, you've got the Buccaneers. Where do you view the Packers in the upper echelon of the NFC?
As long as they're not playing Jameis Winston, I think they're right at the top. Jameis Winston has their number. I don't know what happened that week one. It's crazy to think that that's the same team. That had to have been Aaron Rodgers just sending a message. And it's easy to say in retrospect, but it's such, here's a good word. It's such an aberration what happened in week one, as opposed to what they've done since then, that it feels like a completely different team at this point than what we saw last night. So yeah, I put the Packers right at the top. Alongside the Cowboys. I think those are the two best teams. I'm a little bit disappointed that this wasn't a blowout, that the Packers didn't absolutely beat the brakes off the Cardinals, because I was very much looking forward to the dialogue of whether or not the Cardinals are the worst 7-0 team of all time. That's a nice annual tradition that we have to have whenever the last undefeated team loses. But shout out to Mercury Morris, having a great time. I'm sure yesterday he popped a bottle of champagne for an actual reason of celebration, as opposed to just every day. I think he's just a all-day mimosa guy. Yeah, it was a great performance by the Packers. And yeah, this definitely puts them, I think, at the very top. I would say it's the Cowboys and Packers. And then after that, we got the Bucks and Rams. And then after that, we got the Cardinals. I don't want to use the S word on the Cardinals. I don't want to call them soft, but they're leaving me very little choice here. I feel like there were a couple moments last night that showed that they are kind of a soft football team at times, especially against the run. And when the Packers weren't running the ball, one thing they did great was they did almost like a Midwest Coast offense thing, where it's just screens, either to your running back or to your wide receiver, just an extension of the running game. And I feel like they kind of imposed their will on the Cardinals in a way that we haven't seen another team do. And it showed that they missed J.J. Watt. I think their defense looks a little bit different. Zaven Collins was out too. That guy's cool. I remember him saying like he can't wait to like kill people on draft night. I think he brought a tone to that defense that they definitely missed last night. And yeah, I don't want to use the S word, but I'm putting the Cardinals on notice that I'm considering using the S word about your entire team.
I can't let this moment pass, though, without asking you why you have the Cowboys in your mind ahead of the Buccaneers and the Rams, because I think most people are still kind of like waiting on the Cowboys, even though they've won 5 in a row, and who knows what's going to happen Sunday night, because who knows if Dak Prescott's going to play. What in your mind has them ahead of the Bucs and the Rams?
They haven't played a bad game yet. They've been a pretty complete football team this entire season so far. They beat the Chargers in a weird game, and I actually think that the Chargers might be the most complete football team in the NFL right now. They've had a couple. They need to work on keeping it even and not experiencing too many highs, too many lows. But the Cowboys, I feel like, are the most complete team. It does pain me to say as a fan of the Washington football team. And obviously the injury situation is one that you have to keep an eye on. Dak Prescott's leg, they're saying that his calves are cramping up because of something to do with the surgery that he's had. So that could be a real issue. And if that's the case, then obviously all bets are off. But Ezekiel Elliott's looking good. A lot of people around the league are calling him Physekiel Elliott. It's his new nickname. I think it fits. He's lean. He's mean. He's switched up his diet. I think he's stopped eating mashed potatoes. I think he's switched up to soup. He's a big soup guy now. So the pounds shed off him this offseason. And I think that just the Cowboys defense is really good. Dan Quinn is a cool guy. He's got his hat backwards. He's lost about 20 years after getting out of Atlanta. Mike McCarthy is just doing a great job of getting out of the way and trying not to get fired before Jerry Jones puts Kellen Moore in his place. And I actually wouldn't put it past Jerry Jones this season. Let's say hypothetically the Cowboys get to the playoffs. They end up getting to the NFC Championship game. Maybe they lose the NFC Championship game. I still think that Jerry Jones is going to want to just install Kellen Moore as his head coach at that point. So Mike McCarthy has done a good job, though, of staying out of the way. All of his clock snafus have been kind of swept under the rug because they haven't impacted the results of any game yet. But as long as he can keep that streak going, I just think the Dallas Cowboys are the best team. And the Packers, I think they have some issues. They're a very, very good team right now. They're playing well. When they get Devontae Adams back and they get some of these other starters back, they'll be great. But I do still have some questions about the defense.
In your string of sarcastic remarks, there was a very clear truth that came out, and that is that I believe Jerry Jones wants Kellen Moore to be the next coach of the team, just like when Jason Garrett was the offensive coordinator and Wade Phillips was the head coach. And I think at one point, Garrett was making as much or more than Wade Phillips, and I think that's what Jerry may have to do because other teams are going to be interested in interviewing Kellen Moore. Jerry's not going to want him to leave. He's going to have to pay Kellen Moore a bunch of money to get him beat basically the coach in waiting until whatever moment arrives that they move on from Mike McCarthy. And that could be as soon as this year where Kellen gets a huge raise to not go consider other jobs. So I'm not ready to go that they're at the top of the conference, but they've been surprisingly good. They played the Buccaneers well in a loss week one, and they haven't lost a game since then. And whether or not they have Dak Prescott on Sunday night, we'll be talking about that coming up, is going to be a huge part of it. The Cardinals did suffer their first loss. Let's hear a little bit from Kyler Murray on the undefeated season coming to an end. And as you said, PFT commenter Mercury Morris popping open champagne for a reason other than it's a day ending in Y. Here's Kyler Murray.
I visualize all of it, as far as the undefeated season. Yeah, I mean, I think it's, it's a thing that, obviously you think about, but you're going to face adversity. This is the NFL, so we knew it. We knew it would come. At some point, we fought the whole game. Just didn't. Just came up short. Make a play. You make the last play. We're not talking about this. So, yeah, it is what it is.
I love Kyler Murray just because he would prefer to never speak to anyone under any circumstances, and that's fine. We're all wired differently, but he's thrust into the spotlight. He answers the questions he has to. He's a great player. And now the question is, with a couple of days off, they extra days off as they get ready to keep going. They just need to keep winning. Nobody expected them to go 10-0 or 12-0 or to make a run at the Miami Dolphins. Nobody expected that from the Arizona Cardinals. You tell them at the start of the season you're going to be 7-1 after 8 games. They're going to take that and run with it. It just always sucks that your most recent game was a loss and that your bubble finally gets burst. And now we see what they do about it. How do they respond to this? Do they get better, or do they take a step back? Or nobody ever stays the same in a long season. So we'll see how they react and how they deal with it, because now they have to worry about the Rams again. Not that they ever stopped worrying about them.
Yeah, I think they'll be fine. But if you were to just straight up ask me right now who I would like on a neutral field, if it were going to be the Cardinals or the Rams, I would still take the Rams. I know that they've actually played the game and it didn't go that way. But it just feels to me like the Rams are a team that is they're less built on smoke and mirrors at time than the Cardinals are. I heard somebody say the Cardinals are a basketball team playing football. I think it was Mark Sanchez, great offensive mind. And I think that he is actually onto something right there where it felt like at times they were a video game team and they're going to be just fine. I'm sure they're going to make the playoffs and have a great season. But when you lose the element of having an actual physical football team, like it sure seems that they have. It seemed like they were getting dominated at the line of scrimmage last night. It is going to make me less inclined to think that you can win in December and in January, where the run game becomes a little bit more important, stopping the run becomes a little bit more important, or at least that's what I've heard people say on television. So I just regurgitate it like a parrot that's been trapped in a room listening to Skip Bayless on repeat. But you know what I'm saying? I think that enough people have said it on television where it has to be true at this point. And I think it's actually fair to question the Cardinals' physicality at the line of scrimmage after what we've seen.
Well, first of all, the Cardinals and the Rams get together again week 14, Monday Night Football. And that's a weekend that includes the Bills and the Buccaneers getting together the day before. So that's a hell of a weekend that is looming not that far away. But a Cardinals-Rams rematch in Arizona is still to come. You mentioned A.J. Dillon earlier in the program. He had 78 yards last night on 16 carries. And, for as confusing as the decision was in 2020 to use a first-round pick on Jordan Love, they turn around in round 2 and they draft A.J. Dillon while they have Aaron Jones. And then Aaron Jones, earlier this year, they give him a not quite full market value contract, but 8 figures a year. And I feel like, and I agree with you on this, they don't use A.J. Dillon enough. They used him a good bit last night, and they did pound the ball into the line of scrimmage. And there is something to be said for how the Packers were able to control the clock and keep that video game offense off the field. That's what I thought was so masterful about the drive that ultimately resulted in no points for the Packers. They bled the clock the whole way down the field. And if they had gotten a touchdown, there was no way the Cardinals were going to score 10 points. And I doubted when they had the ball 1st and 10 from the 1 that they were even going to get in position to get a field goal. But the Packers have shown that they can control the clock. And when you're missing Devontae Adams, when you're missing Alan Lazard, when you've got some receivers that don't quite know where to line up and it's forcing you to take timeouts, run the ball. And they got down there, after they tried to run it a couple of times. And now the Aaron Rodgers run wasn't planned, but fourth, I'm still thinking about that play. It's 4th and goal from the 1. You're in shotgun formation. Why don't you just line it up and try to just bash it through? Give it to A.J. Dillon. Give it to – do they have a fullback there? Where's John Kuhn now? I don't think he's on the team anymore. But you run it. Just try to get it through. They came so close twice. That doesn't mean you should just abandon it. I still don't get what they were doing on 4th down. It gets back to what I was saying earlier. Aaron Rodgers is mad at his coaches for the play they called. And let's make that a narrative.
He definitely is mad. He was going after Randall Cobb. He was going after his old teammate right on the inside.
That was not that. He wasn't going to catch that. He wasn't going to catch that. Yeah. He was covered.
This is a case of the Packers getting a little cute with it, Mike. They got too cute with it at the end. Sometimes old school football is all it takes. What they say about John Kuhn: if you need 3 yards, he'll get you 3. If you need 5 yards, he'll get you 3. Every single time. Fullbacks inside the 5-yard line. You got to zig when everybody else zags. You think Cliff Kingsbury, pretty boy over there, is going to trot out the old big fat uglies and just run smash mouth football? No. And that actually brings up a good point. Do you think that this was a matchup of the 2 most attractive coaches in the NFL? You're always saying on our group chat how hot you think Cliff Kingsbury is.
That's funny. That's really funny. You're very humorous. I don't know. Sean McVay may have something to say about that. So maybe we'd have to expand the list of finalists before we start down that path.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.